All right, everybody, welcome back to the Good Ad Fellas. We finally got a name for the podcast. My name's Carson. I own and the founder of Madvertising, a creative ad agency based in the U.S. And this is my partner, Luke.
Yeah, partner in crime across the pond. And so I'm working for Big Day, a UK kind of agency. And we built this podcast to unite creativity from both sides of the world. Well, not both sides of the world because we're very similar, but you know what I'm trying to say. Carson has come up with a very good episode today. A very good episode. He's going to tell us more.
Yeah, I think, one of the things that we talked about a couple weeks ago was the lack of inspiration from the real world. And we were like, well, what does that kind of do for the ad industry? I think it leads to a lack of big ideas. And so today we're just going to kind of go through questions, thoughts, ideas, answers of, how to find a big idea and why it's important to seek inspiration elsewhere and how you can do it. I think it's one of those things, Luke, too, where it's very not misunderstood, but underutilized.
Yes.
Right. Like you see a ton of people taking inspiration just from other competitors and things online, and it just creates a huge fucking flywheel and feedback loop of terrible ads. So you just see the same things over and over and over again, where, all of the big independent agencies like Ogilvy, Vayner, BBDO, they're all taking inspiration from the real world and things that we're going to talk about today. So my first question for you, Luke, is
far away.
Why do you think scrolling ads and finding inspiration online is so limiting?
So if you're always looking at what your competitors are doing, you will always be number two, right? Because they're already out there and they're putting paid behind it. So you're always playing catch up. So I think what's important is to map out the ecosystem. So really understand what people are doing creative, like what the creative landscape is in your kind of space. And then you've got to make a very, very deliberate kind of movement to do something slightly different, if that makes sense. I think it's all about kind of understanding, okay, your audience isn't single faceted in the sense of it has multiple different desires and dreams and whatever. And it's working out how that actually bleeds across other products and other industries. And then, what do you think? Do you agree?
Yeah, I do. And I think like when you see ads online, like you said, you're seeing what's already been done. But going back to and diving deeper into what I said in the beginning is there isn't a point now where people go outside and actually observe or look at what people are doing and
go touch the grass.
Yeah, exactly. Go touch grass. Like there is so much of just, let me go to my competitor ad spy, whatever it might be, like Foreplay, Atria, Magic Brief or Motion, and let me see what my competitor is doing. And it's like, if you're doing that, you're just going to copy and kind of change it a little bit, template it. Why would that make anybody buy? It doesn't feel authentic, and it doesn't really present an idea in a light that's going to attack people from a psychology angle, right? It's going to just be, here's our messaging, let's put it on a template and call it good. Whereas if you're going out and seeking inspiration from, what I call the 3D world, the real world, you're going to be able to observe people in different settings and kind of analyze what is going on. Like, let's say, this is a great example, and I would love to get like another one from you after this. But let's say you are trying to advertise a clothing brand, right? And, you happen to have a flight or a train, or you're just out in public in the mall or whatever, right? If you are just sitting there looking around at what people are wearing, it could tell you a lot more about why people are doing that in that setting, right? So let's say you're True Classic selling a t-shirt, right?
Yes.
And you have a flight to wherever and you're at the airport, you're just sitting down, you're looking by. What are people wearing for the most part? What does their body language say? You see a lot of people in suits. Okay, they're obviously like going for business. But what are the people who are in t-shirts wearing? Do they look relaxed? Do they look stressed out? Do they look comfortable, uncomfortable? They're constantly like messing with their shirt like this. There's so many little things to really dig and analyze in public that you can take from. Like one thing that comes to mind with this example is, the perfect travel t-shirt to stay comfortable in instead of like, I get hot at the airport. So if there's an ad that's targeting me, like, don't sweat your ass off in the airport and stay comfortable. That's something that would be perfect for me. But I want to like get your take. Like, what are some other things you think in the real world people are missing?
Well, I think what's really clever there is I think the best ads that stick are extremely detailed and
Yeah,
very specific. Like,
very specific.
and I think you nailed that there. It's like, for example, I think the best advertisers are aggressive people watchers, right?
Hmm.
And
Yep.
you're always looking to analyze what people are up to. And for example, if someone's wearing a t-shirt and you see that they're doing this quite a lot, and if you're listening to this by audio, I'm moving my shirt around, then you can be like, you could use a headline maybe playing into that, saying, I don't know, the only t-shirt where you put it on and no rearranging or something along those lines,
Yeah.
right? It's a human behavior, which is the insight, that is the seed of the idea, and it's how do you then turn that into a messaging that resonates with your audience. Human behavior drives purchase behavior.
It does. Going back to something that I know I talk a lot about, and I'm sure you speak about it too, is getting specific in your ads, whether
Yeah.
it's with the copy just based on, what you're talking about, like make it concrete for people. I like
Yes.
to talk about concrete versus abstract
Mm,
words. Concrete is something people can actually visualize in their head. And if you're being specific into like a moment like we've just talked about,
mm.
that's something people can see and people will feel. And
Yes.
if they can visualize it, they can feel it. If not, it's like, what are you doing with your ads? If you're just saying, this juice will change your life, how's it going to change my life? Like, paint
Precisely.
me a picture so that I can see it in my head and feel something.
It's in a way, it's, what will happen to me if I choose this new path?
Exactly.
For example, it's if I drink this drink, I become more focused. And what does that actually mean, right? It's when I'm doing that next exam, I'll destroy it or not destroy the exam. You know what I mean? You will nail the exam. I think it's like this drink gives you more focus. It's like, what are the stakes? There's no stakes in that. You're just saying I'm focused. I mean, you know what? Like, I mean, some of the best ads for me are the ones that really provoke a it makes you look at it and go, "Okay," and, like, it's actually provokes a human it's like that kind of behavioral change. It's like,
Yeah.
"Okay, that's in" you know what I'm trying to say? Like, it's that you wanna play around with,
Yeah.
and they're
And
the ads,
it's
you know? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
exactly, and it's something that when you can make someone feel something, that's when they're more inclined to buy because they understand the emotional part of it, and humans will rationalize anything, even if it's irrational. We will rationalize whatever we can. If you can get someone to act on emotion, they
Mm,
will immediately start rationalizing why they need this thing,
yes.
even if they really don't.
But I mean, so the question I have for you then would be, are we being told a lie about how, we need to pump thousands of ads out as an agent, as a brand? Like as a brand, we need to have thousands of ads running at all times. Or do you think it's actually no, we need to actually be really, really in the weeds and be like, these are the angles we're looking at, and these are the ones we'll push forward? Or do you think brands are kind of going, well, if I throw thousands of stuff at the wall, something will stick? I mean, what do you think?
I think there's such a skewed view of this because if you're a small brand, you cannot do volume. You will shoot yourself in the foot doing it. If you're a big brand, you should be doing volume, and by that point you pretty much already know what works. But if you're a smaller brand and you're not seeing like anything else going on, you need to just be pushing quality and really understanding customers. Like there is no reason you should be pumping out 20 ads a week if you're somebody who's spending like $100 a day,
Mm.
right? Like focus on something that's going to be more targeted and really give you information on your customer. What is going to connect with them and make like push them to buy your product and like have brand affinity for you.
I agree. I think the number one thing is you've got to start with emotion. And I think this applies from video and static. It's what should the viewer feel and choose that word. So I think you can have what? Tension, relief, surprise, belonging. Choose that core emotion and then build from there, right? If I see this picture, what are they feeling? Are they feeling hope? You know? I mean, one of my favorite ads is the Butcher It. It's the Coca-Cola ad, where they're singing.
But yeah,
And it's like, for me, that evokes so much emotion, right?
yep.
And the sad thing is, I think a lot of companies are tracking all their KPIs by conversion. And I get it. You've got to make a business that's profitable. I understand. But sometimes you won't see the results of those particular ads straight away. They come down the road,
Dude,
right?
that's why I am a big believer in attribution is fake because I tweeted about this maybe a month or 2 months ago maybe. I saw a TV ad for a brand and immediately went to Instagram and saw a, organic post from them. And after that, I went to Google, searched up the company, bought a product, and that was that. But they will never have the attribution from where it actually started, right? So this is why full funnel is so important because you're never really gonna know. And if you see on Meta that you take an ad down that wasn't converting up to par, but your account performance tanks, what does that tell you? It was probably targeting either top or bottom of funnel, and it was really slow at bottom of funnel or slow at top of funnel, but everything else was crushing. And then all of a sudden performance just tanks, right? Then what does that look like for your business? You know, that's why you have to think of it in full funnel and really think of those ideas in terms of, you know, cold traffic versus warm.
Precisely, and I think that comes down to when you're planning kind of your content diversification. It's how am I also sourcing the inspiration wide, right? I think you've got to operate like a bit of a detective when you're doing inspiration. You've got to go wide, and you've got to look at what's kind of just again. I mean, look, there's a trend going on right now. I don't know if it's. I think it may have crossed the pond. I may be wrong. It's the lock-in 2025, the Great Lock-in.
Yeah,
Have you
the
heard?
great lock-in. That started here.
No, it started in America. Great. It's coming to me now. Clearly, it's started to sweep over to the UK. For me, it's okay. What are the behaviours that's actually telling us, right?
Mhm.
You know, people are making jokes in the comment section saying, "Oh, it's another winter arc or whatever, whatever." Right? So if you're
Yeah.
selling a supplement, right, there's a lot of inspiration you can take from that, right? You know, maybe your headline could be something like, we could workshop one. We'll do videos down the road of us workshopping ads, but you know, maybe it's the one supplement to stop all winter arcs or something along the.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Something about
there's
the
a
great
movement.
lock-in, like like Neurogum, I feel like would be perfect for this. Your key to
Oh my
the
goodness.
great lock-in. I mean, that's you need to be in the dirt, really understanding your customer because I think like for them, Neurogum, if you're like if you happen to ever see this or someone sends this to you, you need to be playing into the great lock-in right now. Look it up on Twitter, look it up on Instagram, and
It's happening.
actually make
Yeah.
ads right now for the rest of the year on the great lock-in. I am telling you, I think it would crush. I think it would fucking crush.
And that's the thing. And it's, you've got to realize that culture comes from, again, I mean, look, you've got TikTok and Instagram, but for me personally, TikTok is where the culture is at, right? And these conversations are happening, and as a brand, don't react to all of the conversations. But if you're a supplement brand, the lock-in makes sense to me, right? You know, don't talk about the lock-in if you're a. I'm trying to think of an example. Like if you sell, I don't know,
If you're in the supplement space like sleep or recovery, performance, mental clarity,
beautiful.
all that stuff, you're in a great spot. Even if I would say even if you're in athletic wear, you are in a great spot. Where I would draw the line is probably leisure, like clothing, stuff like that. I would also say if you're on the side of, you know, jewelry or any accessories, that's probably not it. But if you're in athletic wear, if you are in supplement space and you help people with like their sleep, their performance, recovery, etc., all that shit, like this is something you need to be doing right now because I think this has kind of unlocked a whole new conversation. But digging into this trend and real world inspiration of something that might be happening online, but what are people actually doing
Precisely.
with what's going on online? Like that, there's your big idea, right?
That's the thing. The big idea comes from the conversations that are happening on TikTok, Reddit, Instagram, YouTube. People don't realize ideas from a podcast can change everything, right? If you're in the supplement niche, right? Type in on YouTube what your supplement does, what the core benefit is. Let's say it's sleep, put sleep, and then put podcast, and then see what's kind of trending in the last month, right? You will get enough inspiration to last a good solid month, maybe longer, from that podcast, from just scraping its transcript, right? The
Yeah.
ideas come and it's just finding the right places. The gold mines are everywhere. You've just got to find the right, I was gonna say axe, but that's wooden. The right pick. Is that right? Iron pick? Am I right? No. Iron pick? Like, is that, what do you call it when you, I'm not a miner. This is you know, mining, you know, Carson,
Yeah.
this is when you come in. I'm
That's
but
picking,
you know,
mining.
mining, yes. Like mining the gold comes from looking at where the conversations are happening and looking at the consumption habits. But Carson, I have a question for you. Culture and media. You've got in algo, so you've got on the algo and you've got off algo.
Mhm.
We talked about going outside and touching grass. Where would you say the best sources of off algorithm inspiration comes from?
That's a great question. So I want to preface this too with a statement that I think the best and brightest creatives are anthropologists. And what I
Mm,
mean by that is they're the ones studying micro behaviors and things people are doing and talking about and really truly observing the little things that you might not know. So that might be body language in public, that might be how they speak, their tone, what they're saying online.
yes.
You're digging into the things that people don't look at, and that's where the best creatives are, right? They are truly the anthropologists of the industry. Now, where I think a lot of great inspiration comes from is observing people in environments, situations such as like coffee shops, malls, anywhere that you're traveling, whether it's train stations or bus stops or airports. Those are great. I think grocery is a fucking massive one. If you're an
Yes,
advertiser and you don't just go to the grocery store to watch people shop, you're
man.
missing out. You're missing out on like free ideas just to go and observe people for 30 minutes. The New York City subway, another fun. There's like that's like a day of entertainment.
I am I am a nightmare to take shopping because if I go into a supermarket, I'm there for an hour, right? I'm looking at all the new products. I'm looking at how are people actually interacting with products. Because it's just little things. And it's like, and again, I think we're getting to a very exciting future where companies are realizing that on the power of social media to move retail. Because companies are realizing that a lot of the kind of the big ideas and how people interact with content is on social media, and then they take that into the offline purchasing world, right?
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I don't wanna say there's any one place too that's better than another. It just depends on, if you're a brand, what's your product? Where is it? Go find it. Go look where the inspiration can be. If you're an advertiser, whoever your clients are, go somewhere where the product or something adjacent to it is going to be.
Yes.
Like, if you're working, like I said, with clothing brands, go to airports. If you're working with CPG, go to the grocery store, go to farmers markets. Like, inspiration is everywhere. You just have to go and look where it's going to present itself. Like there's no place in this world that can't give you inspiration. You just have to be able to go find where it's going to present itself to you.
And I just to kind of add on to kind of off algo inspiration. I mean, look, I will look at niche magazines, newspapers, coffee table books, museums. I'll look at kind of. I mean, God, I look at everywhere. Like studying old legacy TV shows is a really interesting angle to me because if we think about it, right? If you think of a TV like MTV, right? I was listening to a really great podcast about this, and I really recommend it. It's called Rick Rubin's Tetragrammaton, and it had Bob Pittman on it, and he was one of the things of MTV, and he says, and he's like, they were very scrappy at the beginning. So if you're a brand with not much budget, look at how MTV started and how they filmed things. Learn about, let's say it was a 30-minute show. What does that 30-minute show look like in a 30-second format? Right? Like there's a again, this is probably more organic, but I think there's learnings to take to pay. There's a show going on where this person will go to university, like college dorms, right? And we'll film it, and then we'll just like have like a bit of a tour of a college dorm and how messy it is and whatever, right? Raw, scrappy, unfiltered, and does extremely well.
Another good one, the career ladder.
Man, don't get me started. The fact that LinkedIn have not brought that show and brought it
Dude,
in-house kills me. It kills me every day. I see it
I
and I'm
don't
like, "Where
know
is
how
LinkedIn?"
the fact that that show is not, I don't know if it is or isn't on LinkedIn because I see it all on TikTok,
It
but
it
the
looks like
fact
it.
that it has not been brought there and mainstreamed, huge opportunity there. Huge opportunity. I think people on LinkedIn would pay bank to be on that show.
So, I think if I'm LinkedIn, right, to me, fundamentally, you could literally take that ladder, put your LinkedIn merch all over it, and it's a show that will print. But they just, I don't know, yeah, it's just, yeah.
Onto the show. You could just put a poster on a ladder. There's so much opportunity. But
It's,
digressing from that, Luke, something that I know that I talk rigorously about on
oh
every
god.
social platform here is the
Oh, no.
importance of asking stupid questions.
Yes, yes.
Now, to dive into why I'm so big on this and why I'm so bullish on the future of this is because they expose hidden assumptions that people take for granted. And
Yes.
a question might appear stupid at the beginning, but when you really think into it, you unlock this new understanding of the micro behaviors that we touched on earlier, right? So why, Luke, why do you think people sit in coffee shops and work?
See, that's interesting. I think people, so this is the thing, right? On the surface level, they'll probably tell you that they like the coffee or I don't know, they'll say they like the coffee or they like the food or whatever. But actually, I think what it really is, in my opinion, is A, it's a sense of community, right? And also, it's people watching. They won't admit it. No one admits that. Like the fact they can sit there and work, listen to the ambience of the sound, and also watch as things happen. Look how many writers go and write in a coffee shop because they're listening to how people are talking to each other, and they take those inspiration and turn them into big ideas. That's my view. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a community thing for sure. I think there are people who work remote. They spend all day in their office at their house or wherever, and they want to get out and go like be around people. But diving in deeper than to that, I think it gives people a sense of I'm working with a team here.
Ooh,
Further into the community part, these people, they might not know these people, they might not have ever talked or seen some of them, but I think subconsciously we assume we are in the work environment because we're surrounded by other people doing work. And, I think that kind of became normalized after the whole COVID thing when remote work started. I think that was a bigger thing after that. And I think that's kind of the play with it, right? But the point I'm trying to get at is asking stupid questions unveils very unobvious answers, right? And what are some things too that you think are important to ask if you're in advertising or marketing and you're trying to understand your customer more? Let's say you're trying to advertise a suitcase. Travel's a good one. What are some questions you would ask around their product of why people do whatever?
right. So I think there's a couple of questions I'd ask. I would say, first of all, what problem disappears if we do nothing, right? I would say if a 12-year-old watched this or saw this, what would confuse them? I would probably be like, what proof would make a skeptic convert in 10 seconds, right? It's actually asking the questions of, well, what is a suitcase? Because realistically, right, people will probably say, again, there's a massive difference between what customers do and it's from customers say and what customers do. There is a huge difference. So, for example, look at it. When people are buying really powerful, powerful suitcase, are they buying it because they like the rugged feel of it, or are they actually buying it because they don't want their stuff being broken inside?
Hmm.
So I think the best marketers go, actually, what are those inner desires? And to map them out, to find those inner desires, ask stupid questions.
Yeah.
Ask, as you say, the dumb questions. I think there are plenty of dumb questions to ask. It could literally be, why, I don't know, like why.
Why do people buy rolling suitcases instead of carry-on like bags?
Well, here's a dumb question. Like, do we have to even show our suitcase in an ad?
Yeah.
What? Hold on. Like, do we even have to show the suitcase? Do we even have to, like, to me, they're the ads that really excite me. The ones where it's like, wait, hold on. Okay, that's clever. Because it's just kind of not allowing yourself to have assumptions. So maybe you draw an assumption on the product, then you draw the line in the sand, and then it's like, like, for example, what is a suitcase? It helps people move luggage from one point to another. Okay, what else does that? Right? In another niche, look at that. And then there's inspiration there. How do
That
company,
and
how do
I think, like go ahead.
no, I was just saying, like, how do airlines sell their tickets, right? They're selling movement. So how would luggage sell movement? Are there correlations there, right? And then, yeah, so I think it's a really good point you're making there, Carson, is you've got to ask dumb questions. Dumb questions unlock insights, percent.
Yeah, and I think, like, people are gonna listen to this and be like, "What the fuck are they talking about? Asking
Yeah,
dumb questions."
yeah, I know, I know.
When you really understand this and start asking why and what and how, like, just the little things that you know inside your head, but you don't really analyze, you really do kind of get this new understanding and observation of why people do what they do. And, going back to the suitcase thing, why do people buy rolling suitcases as opposed to, carry baggage luggage, right? I mean, the obvious answer is because they don't want to roll something around instead of carry it because it's less work. Cool, maybe, but I personally think a lot of it from, like, let's say you're looking at suitcases for people who travel a lot for business, I think it's because they wanna look more professional. I think it's the appearance of looking a certain way or an
Mm.
appearance of, if you're buying a Rimowa, you appear to have more money because it's a nicer suitcase. So people are gonna see this and like, "Oh, that guy's got money because he's got a metal suitcase," right?
It
There's
signals.
all these different things, and of course, like, we're not diving super deep into it, so we're not gonna have, like, the greatest answers in the world, but I think there's so much to think about.
Well, it's what are the signals that your audience will never say, but want them to feel when they see you wearing it,
Yes.
right? That's to me the wording. It's okay. I mean, realistically, if you buy a Rolex watch, right? You, the people that buy those watches, usually very successful business people, or sportsmen or whatever, for them, when they buy that, it's a sense of status and prestige, right? And again, if you know what the signals your customers are wanting to like show the world, that really helps you reverse engineer what you need to sell to them, right? Like for example, if I was if I was doing a Rolex watch, I would maybe do an ad like, when you leave the room, the only thing people talk about is your watch. I don't know, like something to show like that feeling of, oh, okay, and then and again that comes back down to the fundamentals of desires and understanding what do people want to signal to the world, right?
Yes. Yep.
If you're wearing, I don't know, Lululemon, what does that want to show? Oh, I'm fit, I'm leisured, I'm whatever. There was a really interesting study done. So if you look at lots of cars, like car advertisement, they'll have young, vibrant women driving the cars or whatever, the little small cars. And I looked at a study and it was like, even though that was who was in the ad, their highest buying like audience of those cars were 55-year-old men, right?
Yeah.
Because the 55-year-old men were buying it because they wanted to feel young and vibrant and whatever, right? But to a
Yeah.
normal person, they'd say, well, if we're targeting 55-year-old men, why not put 55-year-old men in the car? Well, because that's not what they want to signal. They want to signal youth. And why do people buy Porsches, right?
Yeah.
You know? I
That's
mean, what do you
that's
think?
that's a great study and great, like, pull for the podcast right now. Like, that's exactly what we're talking about when it
Who
comes
keeps
to, like,
Monster?
executing the big ideas.
Look at to execute the big ideas, you've got to realize what do people want to signal about themselves. Look at Monster drinks, right? They do monster truck things and they do, really extreme whatever.
Yeah, them
Their
and Red
biggest buying audience are old men that drive trucks, right? But they're not going to put those ads out there because that won't. People want to aspire to something.
Yeah.
Just show them where the
Yep.
next part of that journey is, and then you
Yeah.
will, you know. But you work with a lot of clothing brands, don't you, Carson? So I really want to hear
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
approach to how you look at that. Like, how do you sell aspiration?
So I think clothing's one of those industries too that can be very tough because you don't directly solve problems, right? So you have to get very gritty when it comes to what you're advertising. You have to sell the lifestyle, you have to sell the identity and the emotions that people are going to get from it. I
Mm,
mean, we brought this example up in the last week, but Nike, we they sell the idea of winning, of greatness, of just trying and putting in an effort and doing things that people tell you you're not gonna do. They don't sell their clothes, they're selling more. It's more of brand marketing than it is performance marketing because it's not about the problem, it's about the emotions, and I think that's why clothing can be a great industry to look at because you're selling the moments and situations and feelings and emotions of where people are gonna want to feel a certain way with your product.
look, I mean, again, and this is another thing, right? It's you've got to learn to stand against something. And I think what happened with Nike I think the reason why Nike lost their way is we were going through a cultural moment where winning wasn't cool and trying wasn't cool. But now, if you look at most of the ads they're running now, they're bringing back the sense of, winning is cool. And guess what? Their stock's doing well. Shock horror, right? And that's the thing. It's learning what conversations to be a part of. And I think
Yes.
that is the importance, is learning, okay, right now, if I'm Nike, right, people, what do people never want to admit, but want to signal? They want to signal they're winners, right? They're champions at what they do. I mean, again, you don't all have to be Tiger Woods, right? You
Yeah.
don't want to be champions in their own little group of people. They want to be the best golfer, the best paddle player. Are you a good paddle player, Carson? Do you paddle?
I play pickleball.
You play? Oh man, I love pickleball. It's a great
A
game.
little bit. A little bit.
Mate, fantastic. But it's like, if you're buying clothes, you want to be like, if you're buying Nike, a part of you signals, I am the best. I am an athlete. I am a Tiger Woods of this thing or whatever. And I just think people don't, I just think people, and that's the thing, the interesting thing about where the world's going online is that there are pockets of cultural movements happening all at the same time. It's not like, "Oh, what's the cultural moment happening now?" I mean, maybe it's the Great Lock-in is like the really broad one, right? But every niche has a cultural movement happening right now. There'll be taboos. So there are taboos in thousands of different niches. Tap
Yeah.
into them, understand what they are, and maybe you position against them, maybe you position with, I don't know, you know?
So for you too, like kind of going a little bit more granular here,
Ooh, let's
what are
go.
some forms of inspiration you look at
Ooh,
and where you find them? Because I've got my own that I kind of have as like a staple, but I'm
mm,
curious, like, what does it look like for you when you're looking for this stuff? Where do you go? What do you look at? What do you
yeah.
do?
Yeah. So my creative process is I will watch really old films, really old films. And the reason why I do that is I'm looking at kind of how are they it's what shots are they doing? Like are they for example, I was watching a Bond film. What film was I watching? I was watching it was one of the old oh god, I think it was maybe Goldfinger or You Only Live Twice, maybe. And there's this, and I'm looking at scenes, so everything I do, I always have a little notepad, right?
Yeah.
They are if you are creative and if you are an ad guy and you're an ad woman, you must have a little book with you at all times. So when I'm watching the films, I'll note down things of interest. And for example, one was here's my secret source. There was a really interesting scene where the camera was coming from a bird's eye view of someone opening a file cabinet, right? So in my head, it's like, well, if I was a brand, maybe there's a really cool like launch like static ad and video about someone like opening a file cabinet with the secret name of the new product, right? You know? And it's like, so again, everything, all creative things, all problems have been done already. Someone has done something of it. It's just, I think the game is sourcing wide. Films, old films, what are the algorithms not showing people, right?
Yeah.
If
I
you
know you're a
find
big fan of magazines too.
I love magazines. My dad, big wine. He loves wine. Collects wine. He loves it. And I have thousands of magazines of old wine brochures, like thousands. I'm not even kidding. I mean, our garage is full of them, and the amount of times I'll spend in there just reading them and looking at it. Because if you have a luxury client, I mean, for you there must be great learnings. If you sell, I know you do work with a mixture of kind of leisure wear and luxury, fashion brands. Like how do people sell wine? Well, wine is luxury and status. Okay, how do they talk about it? Okay, what learnings, what images do they use? How can I take that to, you know, my fashion brands or whatever? Like magazines, old prints, old films, radios, a fun one, old radio stuff, right?
That's a good one.
Because you can start to, it may sound really weird, but you can start to kind of, what are the shows they ran on radio? What are the radio shows? Like, there's a really great scene. I mean, this
How
isn't
do
a
people talk and what are you visualizing when you close your eyes and can you see what they're
boom.
saying?
Yeah.
There's
Like
stuff like
Brooklyn
that.
Nine-Nine. Brooklyn Nine-Nine has inspired many TV shows that might like of how I think of like short form content. And I'll give you an example, right? There's a great scene where you've got have you seen Brooklyn Nine-Nine?
My brother has, I've never seen it.
Okay, fine. I don't want to spoil too much, but there's a great scene where Holt and Terry are doing this radio like they're trying to work out it's like a radio competition of guess the crinkle, right? So
Yeah.
guess the sound of what they're making, right? And then they've got so the radio show will make a crinkle sound, and then they've got it, and people will call in to guess what the sound that made it, right? Here you go. Where are we seeing that now? We're seeing that as a new format where people are closing their eyes, having stuff thrown at them, and the person has to
Yes.
guess what was thrown at them.
Dude, that's a great comp. Great comp. Huge. That is so true. That
Like
is so damn true. And that format crushes.
it's crushing. Like it's like oh, I'm throwing. It's like day one of throwing an item into my brother guesses beer can,
Or
right?
like the ASMR.
Yes. So look, so the radio show, that concept, right? In a way, they've taken that again, and they may have not taken it from that exact inspo, but
Yeah.
that is what they've gone. What would that look like visually? Okay, visually it would be me me closing my eyes, something being thrown at me.
Yeah.
Like that's yeah. So that's I think my best example is what shows are being done in like an audio way. How would that look
Mhm.
visually? What's being done visually? How would that look audio? Like not siloed, be dynamic as hell.
That's it.
Yeah. No, it's a really exciting time to find inspiration. It's fucking everywhere.
It is. I mean, like my biggest inspirations too are like music's a big one. I listen to music almost
Oh,
24/7.
oh,
Music's great. Stand-up
favorite song.
comedy.
Favorite
Favorite
song.
song? "1,000 Bad Times" by Post Malone.
Oh, I'm a big postie. I like a bit of
Yeah,
Post Malone.
yeah,
I like Circles. That's a good one.
that's a good one too. But yeah,
But I
it's
am a basic bitch though sometimes.
music for sure. A stand-up comedy is a big one.
I like that.
I think there's a lot to take from that, from like, the stories people tell, how to
Well,
tell them,
yeah.
the moments in situations where people notice things and, what happens. And then my biggest one is memes.
Mm,
Memes, 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 memes. You have got to like people need to start looking at memes, and it doesn't have to be just online. Like, what is it that your friends are saying? Like, oh, he's a meme. Oh, she's a meme. Why are they a meme? What do they do? What are the actions that they take? Like, in the real world, what does a meme look like?
yeah. Well, I mean, 2 things to really push this on and be look, first of all, what is a meme? A meme is a encapsulation of a cultural moment that's been visually shown or audibly shown or whatever, right?
Yep.
So you can I mean, again, I know I have some
It's
mates
mimetic. That's where it
well,
comes from. I
it's
think
funny,
Greek.
I have mates who were saying they're traders and they were making a joke how, they'll look at the amount of times how a meme can actually help them understand if a stock. I mean, look at the what's it called? Right, God, what was that? GameStop.
GameStop. Yeah, that was a huge one.
The memes, like I think, and another thing as well, to really add on what you were saying is you've got to. I think what I took away from what you were saying is are one of the best ways to really understand culture.
Yep.
They are one of the best ways, and I think a lot of people just don't they just disregard them. And again, to add on to another point you said, by the way, not many people know this, but there's a massive increase in hiring. There is pause. There is a massive increase in companies hiring like stand-up comedians to come in-house. Not many people know this. It's actually kind of a little bit of secret hiring. People are hiring comedians to help in their ad creation and their messaging. Because again, what are comedians, right?
Yeah.
They're just
Shane
people that
Gillis, big one right now. Nate Bargatze.
watch human behavior and they say things that people aren't A, willing to say, or B, that they haven't noticed,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
Isn't that not the best person to have on your team? Someone that
Best,
can read
dude.
culture.
Yeah. I mean, Bud Light, I think changed their entire
Bud
brand
Light, they have a full
by by, uh, by having Shane Gillis
yeah.
come in, really just, like, take the reins for them.
Like,
I
well, they
mean,
needed to.
it's
They were
like them, you've got Nate Bargatze, you've got who else has been Matt Rife's done a couple things on social. Kevin Hart, another big one for a
he
lot of
owns
different companies.
Vital Proteins? Is he Vital
He
Proteins? No.
I don't know. He's doing, like, Fabletics, he's doing DraftKings, he's doing Chase, bunch of stuff. Like, the comedians are really, like, starting to shine in advertising right now. Like, I
But that's
think
the
they're
thing,
really getting a big moment.
because comedians understand what the audience again, what we're talking about, choosing the emotion and then make the ad. Well, one of them is very big is comedy.
Yeah.
You know, like some people will say, "Oh, we don't people don't buy from clowns," and I'm like, "Well, hold on." And people don't buy from people that they A don't like and B have made them feel nothing. So why would they not buy from a clown, right? Like again, you got to back up what you're selling, right? But people, if you make someone laugh and smile, they'll remember you, right?
Yeah.
They may not buy then, but trust me, if
They'll
they're
remember.
thinking,
Made 'em
you
feel something, they'll remember.
the game in 2025 and going to 2026 is how do I live rent free in my customer's head? And it's
Yep.
understanding the concepts of how can I make them laugh? How can I make them sad in a good way? How can I make them fear? What's their like map those out and you'll dominate. Map
100%.
you've got to map by psychological trigger. It's why I love a swipe file. Because
Yeah.
my swipe files are done by psychological triggers. What about you, Carson? How do you look at your swipe files?
Mine are too. Like, I mean, my swipe files are kind of a bit of everything. They've got different ads, they've got different sources of organic content. There's a bunch of different shit in there that just sparks ideas. And I've got separate folders for, like, kind of mood boarding or emotional,
Love that.
like, psychology triggers. I've got a list of, like, 100 something psychology triggers that I'll look at, and sometimes even that will spark inspiration because it teaches me and reminds me how to spin something a certain way and what the effect can be if I choose to go one angle or another. Those are big ones too. For your understanding of, big ideas and observing and asking stupid questions, how would you train someone to notice things that most people ignore?
Okay, this is a really fun game. What I would do, you'll love this, is I would go out and get a piece of cardboard, right? And I'll say to them, "Here's a piece of cardboard, right? I want you to explain this cardboard in 10 different ways." And they'll be like, "Oh, it's brown." They'll go, "Oh, it's they'll say it's recyclable, they'll say whatever, and you'll see they'll struggle to get maybe past 4 or 5, right? And then I'm testing their and what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to let them think outside the box, right?
Yeah.
I mean, ironically, it's a cardboard box, but, it's just and I think that's a really clever way of helping people when people zig also when people zag, how do they zig? Have I got that
Yeah.
right?
Zig
Nice.
and then zag.
Zig then zag, right, there you go, right? That's the thing, it's, nothing don't allow yourself to have assumptions on how a certain way and thing is done, because the minute you draw the assumption, you kill creativity. The worst word in creativity is the word no, because it kills an idea. It's why, if you're a team, right, and you're being creative, the word no should never enter the dojo. Never. Never. Never, never, never.
You should always be asking, "How can we think about it differently?"
Well, look, like, let's say you and I are workshopping an idea and you said, "Luke, I think we should sell it like this." I would go, "Okay, but okay, love
Why?
that. But how would but why? But what about this? How would" and then I haven't said the word no, because if I say the word no, then that idea you just burn. You're like, "Oh,
Yeah.
Luke didn't like my idea. I will never think
It
about it."
closes the loop.
I hate it.
Yeah, it closes the loop, and Rory Sutherland talks about this, and I think it's
He
fucking
does.
brilliant. He says, "I think the opposite of a good idea can also be a good idea
Yes,
because it's
because
different
it's a
way. It's
lens of
just a
2
different way
seasons.
to spin it."
Yeah, like, that's the thing, and I think, you know, like and again, I mean, look, to push further the kind of the cardboard game, and we're gonna call it the famous cardboard game, it's like, making your team ask 10 questions about a common object is a really clever way,
Yeah.
right? Because if I said to you, "Ask 10 I'm looking comment, sorry. Here's a pen," and I said to you, "Ask me 10 questions about this pen," right? What would you say?
What color is it?
What
How
color is
long
it?
is it?
How long is it? Why is it
What do you
plastic?
use it for?
What do you use it for? And then it forces you, and then when you get past the first 10, I'll say, "Give me another 10." Because
Mhm.
guess what? You'll start to get a bit frustrated because, like, hold on, how many questions can I ask about a pen? You know?
But that's once you get past what you consider your breaking point of questions and you're like, what else do I ask? Your brain will automatically start to go into moments where like it might not even make sense. Like I could ask you after I get past, let's say 5 or 6 questions, how long do you write with that pen? What do you
Yes.
use it for the most?
There you go.
Then you're starting to get to the point of like, I'm on to the moments people are using it, right? This is why asking these questions to generate these ideas is so important because you push past what you know and you start venturing into territory that is,
Mm,
you know, things that people do but they don't notice, right?
precisely.
One of my favorite ads too is the Bic ad, funny enough, from the pen, because it sparked my
Precisely.
memory. The Harry Potter books written with like the halfway point. I'm like, that is gold. Because it's like, okay, yeah, you could say your pens last forever, but can you prove it? That's the proof. It's borrowing the credibility, it's using the association bias, and it's creating a moment where people understand what it means.
Dumb dumb questions, first of all, and also that allows you to then find the right questions to answer, to find the answer, right? I think that is why I love the 10 question game, because
Yeah.
what it will do is it forces you to not only be aware that there are multiple answers to questions, it also helps you ask questions that no one else would be asking. And that is where the dumb questions come from.
And I'll do you one better piggybacking off of not one better, but I'll piggyback off of what you're saying with the asking 10 questions. Harry Dry has
He's a
this practice and I've taken it from him. So shout out to Harry, but this is brilliant.
we'll get
What
him
he'll
on.
do if he's writing an ad and it's very abstract and he can't like make it concrete like we've talked about. He'll start with the word at the top and write abstract and he will write concrete at the bottom and he will just continue to make it concrete. So if it's like, our smoothies are better. Better's abstract. How is it better? Okay, you
Nice.
could say it's juicier. You could say it's healthier. You could say it's cleaner. And then you go down and you find a concrete word where people can say, you say real fruit juice.
Mm,
Real fruit juice. And then you move on to the next thing like what does it do? It makes you feel energized. It helps you get past the 3 p.m. slump. Real fruit juice that helps you get past the 3 p.m. slump. That is the specificity and the concreteness that you're looking for.
precisely. And that I think is the really big takeaway today. I think it's actually understanding, when you make anything in life, really ask yourself, is this concrete enough? Because You know, for example, as you said, right? If you said this juice makes you feel better, I'm asking like, who does it make this better for? Why does this make this better? What can they say that no one else can say? I think Harry Dry talks about can anyone falsify it? You know,
Yes.
and that's one of his big ones, I believe. So it's like having those in your toolkit. The game of the creative process and the game of, you know, finding the big idea is, in my opinion, is having the toolkit. But I think the number one problem creatives have is their tagging system. How do they tag what they find? So you've got to get a swipe file. You've got to have a way that makes sense to you. It's why I'm quite anti telling people how to tag their creativity because we're all different, right?
Yeah.
If you looked at my home screen, you would cry. You've seen it. You've seen my home screen, you know. But I know exactly where anything is at all times, but no one
There you
believes me.
go. So how much do you think is instinct versus process when it comes to big ideas? Like how much of it is intuition and instinct versus the process that you're using?
I think the game is I think instinct, of course, there'll be some people that are more creative than others, but I also hate saying that because I think everyone's creative,
I
right?
agree.
I think the best definition of creativity is, in my opinion, is not taking the first answer to be right.
Ooh, I haven't heard that before. It's not
To me,
bad.
that is creativity because it's saying, you know, this is how a pen should look. It's like, well, okay, well, how can we make the pen be different? How could this pen look different to a young child? How, you know, all these things, you know, and I think that to me is the question, how I'd answer it is I think there is instinct. I think, of course, there's natural ability, but I think you can really train your brain to not allow yourself to kind of, you know, listen to the first answer that's given, right? Because again, you know, most people, I mean, there's a great story, you know, Instagram. Do you know what the name? What do you know what the name of Instagram was at the beginning?
Think so.
Bourbon.
What?
Instagram was called Bourbon, right? And
Okay.
when they started it, they realized that they built the wrong assumptions when they building it. They realized that people weren't checking in because Bourbon's whole concept was people would come in, they would check in, see what their mate's doing, and then they would leave the platform, right? They weren't doing that. But they realized that they'd asked the wrong question because what people were doing, right? They were actually sharing the photos on Bourbon. They were using the platform in the way that they didn't expect the users to use it, right? So it's why I always say to brands, you've got to be interviewing your customers at least once a month, right? Because they may be using it in ways that you're not expecting, right? Like for Bourbon, the Instagram people, right? They were sharing photos, so they'd asked the wrong question. They instead of saying, "Oh, how do we, what would make someone, this is how people want to actually feel connected." That wasn't the right question. The question was, how can we build a system that allows photos to be that message? You know, um, so I think you've just got to ask, how do you find the right questions to lead to more novel answers? I think that's something that's huge. But also, I think the lucky people are just better at noticing things than others. And I think and I think it's a muscle to learn how to notice things,
It
right?
is 100%. You
You know,
have to be cognizant of it and do it consciously, and then eventually it'll just be subconscious. Like
precisely.
that's what's happened for me especially when I travel. It's like I'm on autopilot with it. I'm just kind of looking around and seeing what's going on and either writing things down or typing it out on my phone just without really thinking about it.
Yeah. So again, I think for me, to give some homework to our viewers, and maybe it's two men and a dog, but anyway, to give some homework and something that I would recommend would be take 5 different ads from 5 different niches, put them in front of you and stand back and look at them and just look at it for 5 minutes, right? And I guarantee you will find a new angle or new way of, than you've never seen before because you're looking at 5 different things that would never in history be next to each other, right? And that's to me is a really good way of helping people find the big idea, right?
Yep.
But no one seems to do it, in my opinion. But anyway, um, I mean, look, Carson, I think I'm gonna hit you with one last question because we're coming up to the hour mark, and
All right, let's hear it.
here is my last question: where do you think people get creativity wrong with finding the big idea?
Thinking about too much of what they want versus what their customer wants.
Bang on! That is a
Think that
phenomenal answer.
is I think that's the biggest thing because I mean, you see it in ads, you see it in content, you see it pretty much just with human beings themselves. We're so much more concerned with our image and what we want rather than what other people will want from us. And, I think when you get into advertising, you need to be unselfish in, you're the one who needs people to buy from you. So you need to be unselfish in providing what people want, not doing what you want to be able to get people to buy from you because it's not going to work. Nobody cares. So
I agree.
why should they care? What's going to make them care?
So yeah, so for the next episode, Carson, what are we going into next? What is the deep dive?
So we haven't talked about it extensively yet. An idea that I had, I think we could dive into the creative versus offer debate.
Ooh. And and look, we'll maybe put this to a vote, but I want to do a bit of a deep dive into how do the diamond industry sell their products.
I
So
like that.
I think that'd be a very fun deep dive. We will take all the big leading diamond companies and like the main like jewelry diamond companies, and we'll analyze over maybe 100 years of how they've sold their products. And so look, we've got two ideas there. So we'll play around.
I think I think we could either do both or wrap them in together. I think the diamond one is money.
Because I think if diamond
I think there is a way that those fit together, because I think
Agree.
it proves the point I want to make.
Agree.
I'll just leave it at that.
Oh, that's called a launch pad. That's a little teaser.
Exactly.
So
Get
look,
people coming back.
so first of all, look, thank you so much for listening. And yeah, so for me, thank you for listening. And Carson?
Yeah, thank you guys. Appreciate it to anybody that watches. And if you know anybody that would like the podcast, feel free to shoot it their way.
Absolutely.
I know I have a couple friends who probably are watching right now, and we're just looking to grow this and really honestly just kind of get the word out there about how to help people be more creative and to make better ads and better content all around. So anything that any shares always helps.
Yep.
And you can find us both on all of our socials below
And
in
I'm on
the
here. So if you
description.
find me, I'm kidding.
Yeah. So but yeah, thank you guys for watching, and tune in next week as well when we figure out what we're gonna dive into next.
Yep. Pleasure. Peace.
Awesome. Peace.